Hi, good evening. Welcome to the Road to College 2, PVA, for our juniors and junior parents. For those of you in attendance tonight, thank you for coming. We are also going to be recording this and putting it on the website. And unfortunately, with technical difficulties, we don't have a chat open. So we are going to add a link to the website. This is under the junior resources on the HSPVA website. We'll have a link to submit questions, and then we'll add an FAQ. So I'm Miss Ferris. I'm the counselor over dance, theater, and visual arts. And later in the presentation, you're going to hear from Miss Johnson, the counselor over vocal, instrumental, and creative writing. Next slide. Okay, so tonight's agenda, we're going to get into a lot of things. This is just kind of the beginning. So you're going to hear a lot of repetitiveness of that senior year. So it's nothing you have to memorize right now, but it is some good information for you to going into the summer, finishing up the semester, and things that students can start doing now. We're going to look at some data from the last few graduating classes. We're going to talk about important things students should know before they apply, talk about letters of rec, building a resume, essays, and how to prepare for the fall. Something that I've been listening to that I discovered under podcasts, that's worth a listen. It's called Inside the Yale Admissions Office. It had really good insight directly from Yale admissions representatives, but keep in mind that this is a highly selective school. So their podcast is tailored for a highly selective admissions process, which isn't going to be the same at every other school, but it had some really good tips and good information. Okay, so looking at the class of 2020 from last graduating class, we had 185 seniors graduate. The number of applications that they sent throughout that year in Naviance was 1,608 applications. They were offered over $25,254,072 in scholarships, which is amazing. HISD has seniors report all offered scholarships, and we put that in the senior program. So over $25 million in scholarship offerings. The top schools that they applied to are University of Houston, University of Texas at Austin, Rice University, Texas A&M, Sam Houston, and New York University. And so I put down the numbers of who applied to those schools that year. So comparing that to the class of 2021 as of April 8th when I pulled the data. So we're going to have 181 seniors graduate in June. And so far, they have sent 1,710 applications through Naviance. So they've already beat out the senior class before, and we're not even done with the application season. So they are definitely applying to more schools. I think the schools, the colleges and universities have noted that this year. A lot of that has to do with not using the SAT or ACT scores. They've noted that the amount of applications that they've been receiving have gone up dramatically. Even the Ivy schools pushed back their deadline, their decision time quite a bit to later on in April, when they usually come out a little bit earlier. People were a little bummed they had to wait longer, but they have a lot of applications to get through. So that's what we're seeing. The top universities applied to at this point are U of H and UT Austin, University of North Texas, Rice, A&M, Southern Cal, USC, and University of Michigan. What's not listed is anything between now and the end of the year. So University of Houston has a regular decision deadline that's later in the semester. So we're going to have a lot more students apply to University of Houston, and then Sam Houston has a later deadline as well. So I'm assuming that we're going to see a lot more applications go out to the schools with later deadlines, keeping in mind that they're getting their admissions decisions right now, but they're also getting award letters, or they're about to. So they're trying to find out which school is going to offer the most amount of money. So juniors, you think as soon as you get your first decision from your university, that as soon as you get your first acceptance, that the job is done, but that's not the case. The spring, you are waiting on your award letters. Okay, so we're going to talk about important things to know before you apply. So such as how to apply, the requirements, and the deadlines. Those are things you should start looking for at the schools that you're interested in. So to highlight, the most important thing to remember is that the first and best source for individual college application requirements and deadlines is the university website or the admission representative. Every application season, this information can change. So yes, you can talk to teachers, you can talk to Ms. Johnson and me, and even kids that have graduated, but the best source is going to be directly from the school because they can change during each application season what their expectations are. So never just assume nothing has changed. You have to do that research, and it doesn't take that long. We recommend start now, gather that information now so that in the fall, when school starts, you're not scrambling and going, oh, I don't know what to do. Start now, be prepared. Make a spreadsheet of schools, requirements, and deadlines so you can check them off. The next slide is an example of a spreadsheet that Miss Landry has. It's a little overwhelming to look at right now as a junior, but as a senior, you're going to go, oh, that's great. So I asked her to share that, and we're also going to put it on the website for the juniors. If you want to start compiling your information in a spreadsheet now, it's got great information to keep up with of whether they have certain requirements and whether you have done those requirements and what their deadlines are and all of the above. Okay, next slide. So something that came up this year and I really want to highlight is when you're filling out your college application, you need to make sure to use your legal name. We're finding instances of students that are using a different name. It could be even just be a nickname. And it's not connecting with the rest of their application. So their transcripts, their FAFSA, the college connects and matches their records. And you would think that with your social security number and your birth date that would be enough. But if there are instances where if their names do not match, then they are saying that you're missing documents. So we would recommend applying with your legal name. In your essays, you can refer to, I go by this name, and you can have teachers and even counselors say, we call the student da-da-da, and here's why. That's fine, but when you're filling out the legal paperwork, make sure to use your legal name. Okay, next. All right, so we're going to talk about some of the most common applications that you're going to come across, and you can even start doing research, and you can even create accounts now. You just cannot apply. So we're going to go through the Common Application, Coalition, Apply Texas, the Common Black College application, and also there's individual school applications on their websites. Applications for the class of 2022 usually don't open till August 1st, so please don't start applying yet. You would be filling out the wrong application. Most schools do not accept. Many schools accept more than one application, but they only want you to fill out one. It does not matter which one you use. So the school's job is to get you excited and to get an application into your hand quickly and easily. So that sometimes they even email you and say, here's our application. And that's wonderful because they want you to apply. But don't do it more than once. Pick one way to apply and stick with it to each school. And you can choose many different applications, one for each school, that's fine. Just make sure you only send one application to one school. Okay, next. So let's talk a little bit about the different kinds of applications. There's the Common Application. We're going to use that a little bit in Capstone in the fall. We're going to talk to the seniors about that. This is the most common application out there. More than 900 colleges and universities accept it. However, it only allows you to apply up to 20 schools. So if you think you might be applying to more, which I know that sounds like a lot, but with all the interviews and all of the audition requirements and all of that, some of you apply to more than that. And so you want to make sure that you don't rely on Common App for all of them. If some of them accept, Coalition or whatnot, you need to make sure to spread it out so you don't go over the 20. Apparently there's a mobile app. I haven't used that yet, so I don't know how user-friendly that is. It typically opens August 1st. It has college and scholarship search tools, and you can create an account at any time. So we're going to mention this a few times, but this is very, very, very important. When you create a Common App account, it's going to say, oh, would you like to list a recommender, which would be the person to write your letter of rec. Do not list that in your Common App account. You're going to do that next year through Naviance. By listing it in your Common App account, it freezes your account. It's not a good thing. We're going to remind you 100 times. And in Capstone in August, Ms. Johnson and I can help fix those situations. But if you can just start now and know letters of recommendation do not come from Common App, they come from Naviance, and we will talk your students through that. Okay, next slide. Okay, then there's the Coalition, which is really, really similar to Common App. More and more schools are starting to use it. Right now, more than 150 colleges and universities. I've heard that it's gotten a lot more user-friendly, and that's why more schools are starting to accept it. There's no limit on the number of schools which you can apply. It also opens August 1st, typically. It has college and scholarship search tools, and you can also create an account at any time. Then there's Apply Texas. This is used for Texas public and some private universities and community colleges. You create an account and then you can add schools to it, all of the Texas public schools. This usually opens July 1st. So you can create an account starting in July and you can start working on it and working on those essays. Some scholarship applications are tied to it. And again, you can create an account at any time. Okay. All right, then there's the Common Black College application. This is a really cool opportunity if you're looking at applying to an HBCU. It's a one-time application fee of $20 this year. It's normally $35, but I think it's the 20th anniversary, so they're going down to $20 this year, and you can apply to multiple HBCUs for $20. It's going to ask you to select your top 4 choices, and then your application is going to go directly to those schools. Outside the top 4, it says they're still going to get your application, but you have to directly let that institution know. There's a good FAQ on the websites if you're interested in the Common Black College application. And then of course there's the personalized application on the website. I know Baylor, TCU, some other schools, as soon as you even just look up, it says, hey, apply now. Just click this button and apply. Sometimes it takes you to a Common App link, and sometimes it takes you to their very own application with their logo on it and everything. They try to make it very user-friendly, accessible. They really want to ensure that you will apply, that you are not going to walk away without filling out some application. So they offer many ways to do that. Apply however you feel comfortable. If that's what you want to do, then go for it. I've had students say they're going to apply by Common App, but then Webster sent them an email and they filled out an application that day. That's fine. So there's just a lot out there, and make sure you only choose one per school. That's the most important thing to take away from it, but whatever you feel comfortable with is going to be great. Okay, next slide. All right, when you're researching the schools of what they require for your application, you're going to see potentially a list of things that they may or may not require. So something to be on the lookout for when you're looking at what are the application requirements. Is it just the application? Probably not. They probably want some other things. So here's some potential. An application fee that goes along with your application. They may want your transcript, a copy of your SAT or ACT scores, unless they're test optional or unless they don't require it at all. Potentially TSI scores. Mostly if you have SAT or ACT, then that's fine. They may want teacher letters of recommendation. Each school will have their own amount and that they want. So you have to pay attention to each specific university requirement. The school profile of PBA, which we send, a letter from your counselor, essays, a resume, audition, or a video, and possibly an interview, and then later in the year, your mid-year transcripts. So that's why we recommend a spreadsheet, because each school could be a little different, and you want to keep up with what have I done, what have I sent. And that's why Ms. Johnson and I are here, and also Ms. Landry and Capstone and Mr. Edwards, and we're going to help make sure everything gets where it needs to go. Okay, next slide. So this is our school profile that goes out with each application. It has a lot of information about our school. We want them to know who we are. We want them to know about our program. I'm not going to go through this, but it's going to be on the website, and it's on the website every year. We update it, so you can review it if you want to. Next. So schools are going to, for the most part, schools are going to require you to send your official transcript. If you're applying in the fall of your senior year, your transcript is going to have your freshman through junior year on there. Remember, it's not going to include senior year grades until second semester, which it looks like based on the HISD calendar, that's not going to be probably until the end of February that we have those updated. So that's something to keep in mind. Do colleges look at the courses you're taking senior year? Yes, because we send them a copy of your schedule and the classes you're enrolled in, but they won't know your grades until February. So information about a transcript. There's an unofficial and there's an official. So I'm going to talk a little bit about that. When you're a senior in August and September, you're going to receive an updated unofficial transcript that will include your weighted GPA and unweighted GPA and a rank that for you to review. So first you want to review it. Is it accurate? Is there anything missing? Anything like that? You know, did you do an elective waiver and it hasn't been applied or you're not sure? So you want to look at it. Then you're going to use that information to determine if you want to opt out of our no rank policy, okay? And you'll receive a link to fill out from Ms. Hines if you do want to opt out of the no rank policy, which we'll talk more about in the following capstone. Please keep a copy of your unofficial transcript because you might need it to fill out applications, and we'll talk about that in a second. An official transcript can only be sent from the school. So colleges and universities require official transcripts to be sent by the deadline. We ask for 15 school days to request that before the deadline to make sure that everything gets there in enough time. The official transcripts can only be ordered through Naviance during your senior year, and any official transcripts for scholarships can be ordered through Ms. Hines. Okay, next slide. Okay, some schools use an SRAR, self-reporting academic record, and they actually don't want a transcript. So you're going to come across this more than likely. You'll see a school. And what that means is when you're filling out their application, they don't want your transcript. They want you to actually just input the information. So keep a copy of your unofficial transcript. So if you're applying to, let's say, A&M, and you're going, "What? I don't understand. What's an SRAR?" You have your unofficial transcript and you can plug in your classes and your grades. And then that will suffice until they get your mid-year or your final transcript. So when you come across that language, just want you to be aware of what that means. Okay, California system schools are the most notorious for just wanting you to self-report. They don't want your transcript. So just pay attention to that as you're researching this fall. Okay, or this summer. So up next, Ms. Johnson is going to start talking about deadlines, and I hope y'all have a great night.
Good evening. Deadlines, yes, that is going to become a very popular word that we are going to repeat over and over and over because they are very important. There are many different types of deadlines, but always the first and best source will be the individual college websites. Always look there. Throughout this PowerPoint, I may say that they are typically done here or typically done here, but always verify because these can change every year. We have several types of deadlines. We have early decision, which is a 1 and a 2, and I'll explain those in a moment. We have early action, priority, scholarship deadline, and regular decision deadline. So the first ones we're going to talk about is the early decision. Next slide. The early decision is a binding commitment saying that you will attend that school if they accept you. No matter what any other school offers you, you are saying that yes, this will be the school that I will go to. In part of the application, there is something that the parents will need to sign, something the students will sign, and then something that Ms. Ferris or I will sign saying that we have talked to you and you understand that this is binding. It is a commitment. You can only apply early decision to one school at a time because obviously you are making a binding commitment with them. So you will need to communicate to Ms. Ferris and myself what you were doing if you were going to do an early decision. It does show us in Naviance when you do that, but we need to hear that from you because like I said, we need to make sure that you are understanding that. The early decision one is typically has a deadline around November 1st, and you'll usually find out their decisions December, January. Early decision 2 is typically January, February deadline. And what that means is if you do an early decision 1, this is your number 1 choice. That is where you are going to go. But should they not pick you, you have decided I can commit to this second school. But if the first school picks you, then you commit to them. Okay, next slide. Then we have early action, priority deadlines, and possible university scholarship deadlines. A lot of these are due November 1st. They're not binding. You're just getting yourself out there early so you stand out in the crowd. The admission decisions are received in late fall or early spring. It might include scholarship deadlines. There are some colleges that specifically attach scholarships to this first priority deadline. So some of that money is first come, first serve. So it's very important to look into colleges if you are wanting to do a priority deadline. Next slide. Then we have the regular decision, and those are anywhere from November 15th through early August. The usual deadlines, and again, they may change. UT has been December 1st, A&M has been December 15th, and U of H has been May 31st. But again, always verify on that website. It's very important to note that some majors within a university will require their own deadlines. So make sure you're looking these up. For example, the College of Engineering. Sometimes you don't just get into the university, you have to get into the specific college within. So always double check if you know what field you're going into, that you research to make sure there aren't other deadlines that you have to follow. Colleges require everything from the student and high school to be in by the deadline. Otherwise, their applications will not be considered. So don't assume, oh, if I miss this, it'll be okay. No, it won't. It is a very big deal. If they say their deadline is November 1, you need to make sure everything is submitted by November 1. Next slide. Next, we're going to talk about letters of recommendation. Look at what the schools are requiring. How many letters are required? How many letters are optional? Who can the letters be from? It's really important to look at this because there are some colleges that they don't want any letters of recommendation at all. There are some that want a specific number, and some say you can send as many as you want. And remember, all letters will go through Naviance. Do not put them in your common application. Letters are also not handed over to the students. We also want to make sure that the colleges know that we are submitting those documents, which is why we all send them through Naviance. Next slide. Start asking now. This is very important. Colleges want current teachers, the ones that have known you throughout high school, that how you work together in groups. It's great that your third grade teacher was awesome and they loved you, but you've changed a lot since third grade. So make sure you are asking current teachers. Make sure you ask them before we leave in June. Ask at least 2 if they will be able to write your letters. This will give them time if they want to do it in the summer that they can. You don't want to wait last minute because teachers, some of them, many of you will be asking the same exact teacher. So you want to make sure that they have time to write the letters and do a great job for you. With that being said, be prepared for a teacher to say no. They may get to a point where too many people have asked. So it's very important that you remember that they have to have time to dedicate to their letters, so they may have to limit it. So make sure you get there first and make sure you are the one that they say yes to. Remember, ask before we leave for summer. Don't wait until the fall because they may already have their limit, okay? Your official letters of recommendation, like I said, we are going to say this a million times, will go through Naviance. Do not put them in Common App. Next slide. Create a resume. This can be used for several reasons. One, we're going to talk about some on the slide, but also you can give a copy of it to your teachers and they can use some of that in getting more information about you for those letters. But colleges want to know how you spend your time. They want to know that you are more than just one thing. They want to see more than just a transcript with grades. Collect things that you started doing your freshman year all the way through now, and then include things as you add them next year. Please don't include anything from elementary and middle school. Remember, We want to know what you've done recently because you've changed, you've grown, and you've experienced new things. Make sure you list extracurricular activities, any times that you've volunteered, or other things that you've participated in that are outside of the school. List the years in which you've participated, how much time you've spent on an activity, and also include positions held or won. So if you were in a club and you were an officer, be sure to include that information. That's very important. Some colleges have an optional or required resume. If you go ahead and start working on one, then you will have that ready. And you can upload it to your application, or like I said, you can enter this information into Common App when they ask things, or you can give it to your teachers so that they can have something to assist with writing your letters. Naviance does have a resume building tool, or you can create your own. The link below is a great place to have examples and tips from a UT admissions. They have lots of examples, and then it goes on to give lots of descriptor words that you can use so that you're not saying the same thing over and over in the same exact way. So definitely check that link out. Next slide. The purpose of an essay. Something that's not on this slide, I just want to say this first. Whenever you are doing college applications, some of them have optional essays, and a lot of times those optional essays are the ones that are for scholarships. So make sure, even if you don't want to, if there's an optional essay, do it. That could be money. Okay, that's just a side note. So colleges and universities use your essays to have a better idea of who you are than based on what you have in your application, because you're more than just a number, you're more than just a transcript, and they want to see that. The essays should draw all the pieces of your application together, and it should be reflected in all parts of your application. It's not a gauge of your writing ability, but it's a way to communicate who you are to the admission representative and become real to them so they know more about you. Like I said, some essays are optional and used for scholarships associated with their particular school, so definitely always do those. Next slide. There are some do's and don'ts to writing essays. So we're going to go through this list quickly. Leave time for reflection. Reflect on who you are now and not just how you got there, okay? Choose an activity to reflect on and go deeper into it. Use a different event that connects insight and reflections that are connected. Be genuine and authentic. Focus on times of collaboration and working with others, and don't dwell too much on the failure. Leave more room for describing your growth. So if you did have a moment where you had a blip, spend more time saying how you grew from it, not all the negative parts of it. Then we also have some don'ts about writing essays. Next slide. Don't tell a story that just ends with the reader going, so what? And make sure there's a point to your story that makes them want to read it, to find out more about you. Don't be stuck in the past. Sometimes we like to be stuck on one thing and we tell that over and over and over. So make sure that you bring forward in what you're doing currently. Don't write your essays about your resume. It should not be a breakdown the way your resume is. This should be providing more information. And this one's kind of important because you as a future senior class have gone through something that lots of other people who are going to be seniors are going through. Don't focus on something challenging that many other people may have also experienced. One thing is COVID, because everybody that's going to be a senior next year, they have all done this. Yes, everybody has had different extenuating circumstances throughout it, but that should not be your main focus. And don't use bathroom humor or shock factor just to try to get a reaction, because sometimes that doesn't go over well. And also don't suggest that you were exceptional. Yes, you were all different and individual and you were great, but you don't want to come off as having a big ego when you were talking about yourself. And also don't share the failure without the redemption. So if something is bad, make sure you say how something you have grown and done better. Okay, next slide. So the next 3 slides are going to be essay prompts. We have sent these prompts, or Ms. Ferris has sent these prompts to your English teachers, and they know about this. You may have access to them soon. She told me something else to say, but I can't remember, so I'm just going to leave it at that. But here are the lists for a Common App. I'm not going to read them. They will be in this PowerPoint, and you can come back and look at them there. And like I said, your English teachers will have them. Then the next slide will be the coalition essays. And then the following will be your Applied Texas essays. So they all have different ones. Sometimes they are similar and you can kind of interweave some of them. Sometimes they're not. So always make sure which application you're using to know which prompts you're going to be using. Next slide. College visits. This is something important. They can be done in person or virtual. Naviance does have virtual college visits, and Ms. Ferris has set them up, and when they have them, they are on the Naviance screen. When you're in your senior capstone class, they will be talking about that, and you will always see them. So Naviance needs to become the second thing you check all the time, first being your email, because you always need to check that because there could be something in there that's good. It's always a good idea to get a feel of the campus because you will be spending the next 4+ years there. Does the community around the school offer what you want or need? These are some things that you need to think about when you are looking at schools, and these college visits, whether virtual or in person, can help you figure that out. Some schools may have special college visit days, so make sure you look for that because sometimes they make a really big deal out of it because they want to show off their campus, and they do certain events on the campus while people are visiting. Seniors will receive 2 college visit days that will be coded as that and will not be counted against you as an absence. So keep that in mind, and we will discuss these documents that are required for attendance when we meet with you in the fall. College fairs at lunchtime and college visits are also important for gathering information about the schools and making a connection with that representative. Get that one-on-one with them. If it's a school you really want to go to, make sure that representative knows who you are and what you're about because they can help you a lot in this process. Next slide. Important things to know before the fall. Make sure you check your updated official transcript in August and September. I can't say for sure when it'll come, but you will get it at the beginning of the year, and make sure it's accurate. Be aware that the opt-out of no rank policy will be sent out in August, September with a deadline. And like I said about deadlines, they are hard and fast. Make sure you follow the deadlines. Transcripts and letters of recommendation will not be sent by HSPVA until the district releases your official updated transcript, and that usually doesn't happen until the beginning of October. So please know, if you start applying to any colleges in August, your transcript will, or August or September, your transcript will not be sent until the district has it updated in October. Letters of recommendation never get released directly to a student. We send them through Naviance. We've mentioned that before. And again, through capstone counselors, we will come in and we will teach you how to use Naviance to order those transcripts and those letters of recommendation. We will have some students who are in yearbook, and those students typically will not have capstone unless it works with their schedule, but those students will be invited to come to the capstone class, and they must attend during their assigned period. After these lessons, Naviance will be accessible to order transcripts and letters of rec. Until then, we have that locked because we don't want you actually doing anything yet. Do not add an HSPVA recommender to Common App. In case we haven't said that, we just wanted to make sure you heard that again. Next slide. We will have another Road to College on May 10th at 6 p.m. again in the same format. Mr. Edwards will be presenting, and he will be talking about financial aid and FAFSA. He is our go-to person and assists with our needs in that area. Please, we will have a link sent out on the website to ask questions because, again, like Ms. Fair said, we did have some issues with our questions, but we will post answers once we get your questions. Next slide. I believe that is the end. Thank you all very much for joining us, and we look forward to seeing you soon. Bye-bye.